Hi all, this is Maylene Velasquez. I am a licensed clinical social worker and a registered play therapist. And today I wanted us to have a bit of a discussion about some ways that we can implement nature into our work with children. One of the things that has been really impactful for me since moving to Washington State is the large access to nature that I have here versus what I felt like I had when I lived in Miami. It's also made me rethink a little bit about my disconnection with nature, even though there's a lot of nature to access in South Florida. With a little bit of mindfulness and awareness, most of us can access, whether it's stones or seashells or tree branches or anything else that we can implement either in the playroom or to help clients to process difficult emotions or experiences that they've lived through. As we reflect as to whether stonework or nature-based work is appropriate for the clients that we're working with, we assess what are the issues that clients are bringing into counseling and what are the things that we're working on. And I think it's important to have an array of interventions accessible to clients that we can pull from as we're working with diverse populations. If we're processing issues like anxiety, depression, grief work, past trauma, or self-esteem concerns, we think of creative ways that we can help clients to process the concerns that they're living through, but to also find ways that they can build strength from within themselves. And I think that this is where stonework comes in. As I'm introducing the intervention, one of the things that I present to clients is a little bit as to how stones are viewed and how they represent for many stability, endurance, a feeling of groundedness, and something that we can easily access. Stones are durable and they're able to survive many different situations and weathers and adversity in the same way that we are. In a way, stones represent the strength and the inner resources that we carry inside of us. And so as we're painting stones, I ask clients to create a representation of a strength that they have as related to the issue that they're experiencing. So this can be a strength that they have in terms of a traumatic experience that they had, or a way that they are able to overcome certain aspects of anxiety or depression that show up in their lives. Or also, if we're thinking about grief, maybe loving memories that they had with the person that they lost. Then I'll ask clients to create a representation of that part of themselves on a stone. And this can be a visual representation through colors, shapes, lines. And sometimes, if appropriate, I might ask clients to think about an affirmation that they need to hear. And then I'll ask them to write the affirmation on the side of the stone if they feel comfortable doing so. Generally, before starting, I will introduce a mindfulness or a relaxation to clients to help them become grounded in the activity that we're going to do. I'll share with you some examples that I have created. And so most of the examples don't represent anything complex or fancy, just simple things that I might create when I'm having an intervention with clients, and some of them I've created it on my own. And so here are some examples to help you kind of think through as to how this might look like. And so here's one, and this is a heart, and on the side it says, "You are worthy of love." I don't know if you can see this, it's not focusing, but it says you're worthy of love. And then I have another example, and this one says shine bright, and on the side it says you are enough. And then I have this one, right, that kind of represents home and a safe place, and this little guy right here. So as you're working with your clients to create, keep it simple and fun, and also keep it grounded on whatever the client is experiencing. If you're in the office, you're going to have stones available that you're going to be able to use with clients. My recommendation is that as you're having mindful moments throughout the weekend or on your time off, take some time to look around and see if there's any stones that might be useful to you in your work with clients. And so anything that might have a little bit of a smooth surface can be useful. It doesn't have to be fancy. It could be big or it can be small, like this little guy. Pick different ones so that clients have different options to pick from. And working online, I'm going to give clients the assignment of going outside, looking around, and picking a stone for us to paint during the next session. If I'm working with a little client online, I'm going to invite their parents and I'm going to give a brief explanation as to what we're going to be working on in the next session, what the purpose of the work is, and I'm going to give them a homework to look around their neighborhood and to pick a stone for us to paint. And now you know your clients best, so you know what their situation is and whether they live in a place where they have stones accessible to them. If they don't have stones, maybe you can have them pick out a piece of wood or a leaf or anything else that represents nature but that has a surface that you can use to draw on. I'm going to share with you some equipment that I use for stone painting. You want to have accessible to use some paints. Basic 4 colors are going to be really useful in mixing and having fun and creating the colors that you want to have. I like these little guys that I got at Michael's. So basically everything I'm going to be showing you is from Michael's because they have that really amazing 40% off for one item discount coupon that you can access online. So you just Google Michael's coupon. And so I buy most of my equipment from there. So you're going to need some paint brushes. It also helps to have a cup with some water so that you can clean your brushes as you're using them. I'd also like to have a paper plate as a place that I mix paint in. And if you're able to and you have access to these are CraftSmart paint pen. And they come in all different colors. And so I'll put the link for the information below so that you can check them out. But these are also got at Michael's with that amazing coupon. You're also gonna want some Mod Podge. I like Mod Podge to place it on the stone before I get ready to paint it. And also after I paint it to seal everything nicely together. They have these glossy one that I really like, and then they also sell a matte one. If you have in your playroom Crayola washable paint, that can also be fantastic for stone painting. Children and you can use your fingers to paint the stones. And if you have Elmer's glue and water, you can create your own Mod Podge to seal what you're painting so that the client can take it with them after the session. If we're processing using stones during different sessions, one of the things that I might ask clients is to think about whether this is a message that they want to leave behind for someone else when they don't need it for themselves. So it's kind of a way to assess how a client is doing throughout treatment. I generally think of treatment as it having a beginning, a middle, and an end. Once we're getting to the end stages, we're working a lot on maintenance and assessing whether the interventions that we're using, whether the client is maintaining the progress that they've made. And so a way to assess this is to kind of check in with the stones that were created at first and check in whether they still need them. And if they're feeling like the stone did the work for them, demonstrated the aspect of strength that they needed, and now they want to give that to someone else, then I use the concept of hiding stones. So when they're on a walk, at a park, on a lake, around their neighborhood, or wherever it is that they're at, they can hide the stone in a place for somebody else to find. So it's also a way to help clients build connections and to help them figure this thing out that I think it's really useful as we're walking through our healing journey, which is the idea of giving back to others. It's not necessary. Some of my clients are like, Miss Maylene, this is my stone and I'm keeping it, and that is completely fine. So assess with your clients, check in what works best for them, and then follow their lead in everything that you're doing as long as it's clinically appropriate. Once you meet with your client, if your client got their stone, but they don't have none of this fancy equipment for them to paint stones, you can use simple things like Sharpies. And I have my little Sharpies right here. These are great for stone painting, and also markers. So I have my little marker bag. So these like Crayola washable markers actually are able to paint the stone. So I tried them on this little guy just to show you, and you can see like the different little colors. So and they show. So you can have your client paint the stone with whatever it is that they have accessible to them. If your client wasn't able to find a stone, but maybe they found a leaf out in nature, you can use the leaves to paint messages on them, or to paint whatever expression of that inner resource that the client wants to represent. Another idea is to actually use a piece of paper and to draw out a representation of a stone. So here's a representation of a stone that I want to share with you all. And so it's a blob. And you're going to have the client draw the stone with whichever color that they want. And then you're going to pretend, right, that this is their stone that represents that aspect of grounding, of stability, of strength within them. And you're going to ask them to create that representation inside this stone. And so this is a really nice way to continue the intervention if you assign the task of going outside and picking out a stone, but maybe the family wasn't able to, or maybe they forgot. So you can still follow through and have the client build through their strength or process their grief with an expressive drawing activity. So these are some creative ways to use stonework in therapy to help clients process difficult emotions, traumatic experience, aspects of resiliency, and self-worth. Always pulling at what your client is bringing and helping them to see their inner resources. I hope that this was useful and helpful in your practice. If there's anything else that you would like to see or that would be helpful to you, please let me know. Thank you. Bye.